Paris, spring 1934. André Citroën watches his Traction Avant roll off the Quai de Javel assembly line with front-wheel drive. Monocoque steel body, independent front suspension, and rack and pinion steering. Tech the competition won't touch for a decade. The car weighs 950 kilograms empty. Peugeot's 301 sits at 850, but uses a separate chassis. Renault's Prima 4 runs 920 with beam axles front and rear. Citroën's engineers bolt the engine, transmission, and differential into one subframe that drops into the unibody from below in 12 minutes. Assembly time per car, 4 hours, 40 minutes. Ford's European plants need 6 hours, 20. The Traction Avant hits dealer floors May 1934 at 12,800 francs base. A Peugeot 401 costs 14,200. A Hotchkiss AM80 demands at 28,000. By June, Citroën sells 2,200 units. July, 2,400. August, 3,100. September. Orders hit 4,800, but the Quai de Javel lines jam because retooling for monocoque stamping ate 370 million francs, and the company's credit runs dry. December 21st, 1934, Citroën declares bankruptcy. Michelin takes control. André Citroën dies July 3rd, 1935 from stomach cancer, 57 years old. The Traction Avant keeps selling. By 1936, monthly output reaches 5,500 cars. If you value documented automotive and engineering history like this, subscribe. It's the best way to support our work. Also, comment from which city you're hearing this from. This script is researched and factual, using sources from the Citroën Conservatoire archives in Aulnay-sous-Bois and André Wolgensinger's 1991 technical monograph La Traction Avant Citroën, which pulls from Quai de Javel production logs, patent filings, and Pierre. Boulanger's internal memos, not surface-level automotive journalism, but primary engineering documents and bankruptcy court records from the Paris Commercial Tribunal. Now back to the information. The route runs Paris to Monte Carlo via Chambéry and Gap, 1,044 kilometers. Ice on the Lafry Pass, snow above 1,200 meters. Perrault averages 62 km/h on the mountain sections. A Hotchkiss AM80S crew averages 54. A Delahaye 134 hits 58. Perrault finishes 9th overall, first in the 1,500 C-Class. A front-wheel drive pulls the car through hairpins where rear drive entries spin or chain up. The independent front suspension keeps both wheels in contact over ruts. Judges note it in the technical report. Tenue de route remarkable. February 1935, Rallye du Maroc. 3 Traction Avants enter, 2 finish in the top 12, dirt, sand, river crossings, no breakages. The team pulls 6 Traction Avant 11 CVs. The long wheelbase variant, 2.87 meter span, 1979 4-cylinder with aluminum head, 56 horsepower at 4,000 RPM, and strips 140 kilograms. Seats go to wicker-backed units. Sound deadening comes out. The spare wheel mounts externally. Engineers fit stiffer front torsion bars, 18 mm diameter instead of 16. Rear trailing arms get progressive bump stops. Brake drums go from 280 mm to 300 mm diameter with cooling fins. Gear ratios drop. Final drive 4.5.1 instead of 5.25. Top speed climbs from 105 km/h to 118. Weight now, 810 kilograms with fuel and driver. A tuned Delahaye 135 weighs 1,020. An Alfa Romeo 6C 2300 sits at 980. Driver Jean Trevoux in car 34 leaves. Tallinn, Estonia, January 19th. Temperature minus 14 Celsius. The northern route runs 3,287 kilometers through Riga, Königsberg, Berlin, Stuttgart, Gap. Trevoux averages 68 km over the entire distance, despite ice from Riga to Berlin for 940 continuous kilometers. Car 56, driver René Lebesgue, starts from Athens, 2,706 kilometers via Thessaloniki, Belgrade, Trieste, Turin. He averages 71 km/h. Car 22 and 61 start from John O'Groats, Scotland, 3,106 kilometers down through Glasgow, Carlisle, London, Dover, Calais, Paris. The concentration phase in Monaco runs January 25th, 26. All 4 Citroëns arrive with 0 mechanical penalties. Trevoux wins the rally outright. Lebesgue finishes second. Car 61 takes 4th. 3 of the top 4 slots. The performance differential isn't close. A Hotchkiss crew finishing 7th logs, 42 penalty minutes for repairs. A Ford V8 entry, 10th overall, burns a clutch in the Alps and loses 2 hours. Review Automobile publishes a cutaway schematic, March 1936, showing the Traction's torsion bar setup and how weight transfers forward under braking instead of diving the nose and lifting the rear, keeping steering load even. Sales inquiries at Citroën dealerships jumped 34% in February 1936 compared to February 1935. Through the Massif Central, Citroën enters 5 cars. René Lebesgue drives car 8. The route splits into 8-time stages. Stage 3, Clermont-Ferrand to Le Puy-en-Velay, 147 kilometers, includes the Col de la Croix de l'Homme Mort at 173 meters. Lebesgue sets fastest time, 41 minutes, 12 seconds. A Delahaye 135S crew logs 43 minutes 50. A Bugatti Type 57 records 44 minutes 8. Lebesgue wins the rally. Citroën takes 4 of the top 6 positions. One traction finishes with a cracked exhaust manifold but completes the route without stopping. The traction Avant maintains 38 km/h through a 90-degree second gear turn on loose surface. A comparable Peugeot 402 holds 32 km/h. A Renault Celta Quattro manages 29. The difference? Weight over the driven wheels. In a rear drive car, acceleration shifts weight rearward, loading the drive axle but unloading the front, reducing steering authority. In the traction Avant, the engine sits ahead of the front axle, and power delivery pulls the car rather than pushing it. The front wheels steer and drive simultaneously. Saint-Arat's memo includes a sketch showing load vectors during acceleration. The diagram appears again in a 1937 patent filing for torsion bar geometry, patent number FR817234, granted to Citroën September 1937. Henri Thévenon, a privateer who ran both a Hotchkiss AM80 and a borrowed traction Avant in 1936 events, published a comparison in Michelin Train magazine June 1936. He wrote, "The Hotchkiss requires constant corrections in tight bends. The steering loads up unpredictably. The Citroën tracks as if on rails. You place it once and it holds." Thévenon recorded lap times at the Montlhéry circuit on a wet day. Hotchkiss, 208.4 per lap. Traction Avant, 158.7. A 9.7 second gap over 2.5 kilometers, which translates to 7.6% faster. Thévenon noted that traction Avant used narrower tires, 165mm section width, versus 185mm on the Hotchkiss, yet still posted quicker times in the wet. A report dated August 1936, authored by Michelin engineer Pierre Boulanger, nephew of CEO Pierre Boulanger, documents tire contact patch behavior under load transfer. The test uses pressure-sensitive film under the tire during hard cornering on a skid pad. Results: the traction Avant maintains 82% of its static contact patch area at 0.6 g lateral acceleration. A rear drive, Delahaye, maintains 68% at the same load. The front drive layout keeps weight on the steered wheels during cornering, maintaining grip where it matters most. Michelin develops a specific tire for the traction Avant rally cars. The Pilot X 165mm section. Reinforced sidewalls, asymmetric tread with larger outer blocks for cornering load. First use, Monte Carlo Rally, January 1937. 4,752 kilometers in 5 days. No rest breaks longer than 4 hours. The route, Liège to Basel, Simplon Pass, Milan, Bologna, Rome, return via Florence, Bologna, Brenner Pass, Munich, Stuttgart, Metz, Liège. Citroën enters 3 cars, crews 14, 22, and 31. Car 14, driver Jean Trévoux, co-driver Georges Boursier. They depart Liège, August 18th, 3 a.m. Temperature 11 Celsius. The Simplon Pass sits at 2.5 meters. Trévoux crosses in fog, visibility under 50 meters, no guardrails on the Italian side. He averages 84 km/h on the descent to Domodossola. By Rome, August 20th, 11:08 a.m., car 14 has 0 penalties. The return leg crosses the Brenner at night. Trévoux holds 76 km/h through the Austrian section. He arrives back in Liège August 23rd, 2:14 a.m. Total time, 101 hours, 14 minutes. He wins. Car 22 finishes 3rd. Car 31 takes 7th after a fuel pump replacement in Florence cost 18 minutes. Out of 62 starters, 29 finish. Every Citroën completes the route. Not one Hotchkiss finishes. 2 Delahayes retire with suspension failures. An Alfa Romeo 6C burns a piston in the Brenner climb. Complaint from automobiles Delahaye and Hotchkiss. The document, filed September 12th, argues that front-wheel drive provides unfair advantage in rallying due to superior traction in low-grip conditions, and claims the traction Avant's monocoque construction violates the spirit of regulations requiring series production touring cars. The CSI reviews the complaint. Citroën's legal team, led by counsel Maurice Gouchot, responds September 28th with production figures: 47,500 traction Avants built between May 1934 and August 1936, all with front-wheel drive and monocoque bodies. The definition of series production: in 1936, CSI rules requires 500 units minimum. Citroën exceeds that by a factor of 95. The complaint goes nowhere, for now. October 1936, both companies launch crash development programs to catch up. Delahaye assigns engineer Jean-François to prototype an independent front suspension system. Francois designs a double wishbone layout with coil springs. Testing begins November 1936 at the Montlhéry circuit. The prototype shows promise. Lap times improve by 2.3 seconds over the standard beam axle setup, but the design requires a new front subframe, new steering geometry, and revised brake mounting. Retooling cost estimate, 2.8 million francs. Production timeline, 18 months. Delahay's board reviews the proposal December 1936 and rejects it. Chairman Charles Weifenbach writes in a memo dated December 18th, "The investment cannot be justified for a drivetrain that may soon face regulatory restriction." Delahaye stays with beam axles. Chief Engineer Émile Caillou focuses on weight reduction instead of suspension upgrades. Between October 1936 and March 1937, Hotchkiss engineers strip 47 kilograms from the AM80S using aluminum body panels, magnesium gearbox casing, and hollow spoke wheels. The weight drops from 970 kilograms to 923. Testing at Montlhéry shows modest improvement. Lap times fall by 1.8 seconds per 2.5 kilometer lap. But the lighter car suffers durability problems. The aluminum panels crack on rough roads. The magnesium gearbox casing shows stress fractures after 800 kilometers of testing. Hotchkiss abandons the lightweight program May 1937. Caillou later tells Lotto magazine in a June 1937 interview, "We can make it lighter or we can make it last. We cannot do both within budget." March 1937, the factory introduces the 15.6, a six-cylinder variant with a 2,800 6.7C engine producing 77 horsepower. The wheelbase stretches to 3.09 meters. Weight, 1,150 kilograms. Citroën builds fewer than 2,000 units total, but the model demonstrates the platform's flexibility. The racing team evaluates it for long-distance events. Internal testing at Montlhéry, June 1937, shows the 15.6 can cruise at 115 km/h for 6 continuous hours without overheating. Fuel consumption, 11.2 liters per 100 kilometers at that speed. The four-cylinder 11CV drinks 9.8 liters per 100 kilometers at 105 km/h. The team decides the extra power doesn't offset the fuel penalty and weight increase. The 15.6 never races. The 11CV remains the competition car. The blower, built by Cazette, spins at 1.4 times engine speed and provides 0.4 bar boost. Power output climbs from 56 horsepower to 82. Top speed reaches a 138 km/h, but the installation adds 38 kilograms and shortens engine life. After 2,400 test kilometers, the engine shows ring wear and elevated oil consumption. Pierre Boulanger reviews the data and cancels the project. A memo dated August 12, 1937, explains his reasoning. Rally success depends on finishing. Power means nothing if reliability fails. The supercharged car sits in Citroën's experimental shop until 1940, when it's dismantled for parts during wartime shortages. Crews starting from Tallinn, Stockholm, and Oslo face minus 22 Celsius in Latvia. Black ice from Berlin to Strasbourg. The Galibier and Izord passes sit under 1.8 meters of pack snow. Organizers reroute via the Loteret. Car 19, driver René Lebeg leaves Athens. January 17th, he crosses Yugoslavia in sleet. The Trieste to Turin leg, normally 8 hours, takes 11. Lebeg reaches Monaco January 23rd, with 4 minutes of penalties for a late arrival at one control point. A timing official's watch was slow. The penalty gets rescinded. Car 34, driver Jean Trevoux, starts from John O'Groats. He drives 3,106 kilometers in 51 hours. Average speed, 61 km/h, despite ice, from Carlisle to London. Trevoux finishes second overall. Lebeg takes third. Another Citroën, car 57, places fifth. The top five, one Delahaye 135, then 3 Citroëns, then a Hotchkiss. The Delahaye wins by 6 minutes over Trevoux, but it started from a southern route, Palermo, 2,408 kilometers, mostly dry pavement. This script is researched and factual, using sources from the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile archives in Geneva, specifically the Commission Sportive Internationale meeting, minutes from 1936-1939, and Jean-Louis Basset's 2003 study, La Compétition Automobile Française, 1934-1939, which draws from team logbooks, scrutineering reports, and manufacturer correspondence held in the Musée National de l'Automobile in Mulhouse, original. Paperwork, not recycled magazine articles. Now back to the information. Citroën takes 5 of the top 8 positions. Lotto publishes an editorial March 19, 1937. Is the traction Avant too dominant? The piece notes that in the past 15 months, Citroën has won or placed top 3 in every major French rally, and half the international events it entered. It questions whether technical superiority undermines competitive balance. No rule proposals follow. Yet. April 1937, Delahaye's Charles Weifenbach meets privately with CSI President Carlo Boncompagni Ludovisi in Paris. The meeting, documented in a letter from Weifenbach to his board, dated April 23, 1937, focused on regulatory mechanisms to restore competitive equilibrium. Weifenbach proposed three options: minimum weight based on wheelbase length, mandatory beam axle front suspension, or horsepower to weight ratio limits. Boncompagni listened, but committed to nothing. He noted the CSI had no precedent for banning a specific drivetrain layout and expressed concern that doing so would appear anti-competitive rather than pro-sport. The meeting ended without agreement. A memo in the Citroën archives, dated May 4, 1937, written by Boulanger to André Lefebvre, states, "They seek rules to hobble us. Expect weight requirements next season. Prepare the car to carry ballast efficiently." Lefebvre responds May 6 with a plan. Reinforce the chassis at strategic points so added weight improves rigidity rather than just slowing the car. The plan becomes reality in 1938 development work. The route covers 890 kilometers through Alsace and Lorraine, including sections of unpaved forest roads. Citroën enters 4 cars. Car 7, driver Henri Dubois, encounters mechanical drama. At kilometer 540, near Colmar, the left front driveshaft snaps. The car loses power to one wheel. Dubois continues on front right wheel drive only, limping at reduced speed. He averages 40 km/h over the remaining 350 kilometers versus his earlier pace of 72 km/h. He finishes 23rd overall but completes the course. The race report notes, the Citroën completed the event despite losing half its driven wheels, a feat impossible in a rear drive car with a broken half shaft. Citroën's mechanics inspect the failure post-event. The shaft fractured due to a metallurgical defect in the steel, a batch problem from the supplier. Citroën changes suppliers for drive shafts immediately. No repeat failures occur. Temperatures range from 8 Celsius at altitude to 28 in the valleys. Car 16, driver Georges Grignard, averages 67 km/h for the entire route despite the elevation changes. A Talbot Lago crew averages 59. A Hotchkiss team records 61. Grignard wins. Citroën takes 1st, 2nd, 4th, and 6th. The Talbot Lago in 3rd place finishes 11 minutes behind Grignard. The margin widens event by event. The route stays the same, 4,152 kilometers. Citroën enters 4 cars. Jean Trevoux drives car 9. He departs Liège August 17th, 2:30 a.m. The Simplon Pass has rain, temperature 8 Celsius. Trevoux crosses in darkness at 6:10 a.m. No visibility issues this year. By Rome, August 19th, 10:45 a.m., he has 2 minutes of penalties. A control point in Bologna stamped him at 9:17 instead of 9:15 due to a clock discrepancy. Trevoux argues, the timekeepers refuse to adjust. He continues, the return leg runs clean. He finishes August 21st at 11:52 p.m. Total time, 98 hours, 22 minutes. Faster than his 1936 run by nearly 3 hours. He wins. Car 14 takes 2nd. Car 22 finishes 4th. Out of 58 starters, 26 finish. All 4 Citroëns complete. 1 Hotchkiss finishes in 19th. 0 Delahaye's finish. A Talbot Lago T150 retires with a broken front axle. Beam axle design. No independent suspension. Delahaye suggests minimum weight limits based on engine displacement. 950 kilograms for cars under 2,000 cs. That would kill Citroën's weight advantage. Their lightest rally spec traction sits at 810 kilograms. Peugeot backs the weight rule. Renault abstains. The CSI does not adopt the proposals, but schedules a follow-up meeting for February 1938. Delahaye fields 6, all 135 MS models with 3.6-liter engines, 120 horsepower, weight 1,540 kilograms. Hotchkiss enters 4 AM Adius units, the weather cold but dry. No snow in the Alps. Car 26, driver Jean Trevoux, starts from Athens. Route 276 kilometers. He averages 74 km/h. Car 31, driver Marcel Conte, starts from Tallinn, 3,287 kilometers and minus 18 Celsius across Latvia and Poland. Conte averages 65 km/h. Both arrive in Monaco with 0 penalties. The concentration tests include a hill climb at La Turbie, 8.2 kilometers, average gradient 5.4%, 19 turns. Trevoux sets the fastest time, 9 minutes, 14 seconds. A Delahaye crew records 9 minutes, 52. Trevoux wins the rally. Conte finishes 2nd. Car 47, another Citroën, takes 4th. The top 5, 3 Citroëns, 1 Delahaye, 1 Hotchkiss. The Delahaye in 3rd place finishes 11 minutes behind Trevoux. The gap widens. Participation by other manufacturers whose engineering cannot match front-wheel drive technology. It requests government intervention to restore balance. Lagrange forwards the letter to the CSI with a note encouraging review. The CSI schedules a special session for April 14, 1938 in Geneva. Delahaye sends Charles Weifenbach, Hotchkiss, Maurice Gillet, Talbot, Anthony Lago. The CSI president, Count Carlo Boncompagni Ludovisi, chairs. Weifenbach presents first. He argues front-wheel drive grants a 12-15% traction advantage in wet or icy conditions based on load transfer physics. He cites no experimental data. Gillette argues the monocoque body provides rigidity that separate chassis cars cannot match and claims this rigidity improves, handling precision by 8-10%. Again, no data. Boulanger responds. He states the Traction Avant is a production car, sold to the public, not a special prototype. He notes 72,000 units, built by March 1938. He offers to open the Quai de Javel plant for inspection. Lefebvre adds that front-wheel drive requires no components unavailable to competitors. Cord in the United States used it in 1929, DKW in Germany by 1931. The technology is not secret. The debate intensifies. Gillette counters that adoption of front-wheel drive requires complete factory retooling, which smaller manufacturers cannot afford. He estimates conversion cost at 8 to 12 million francs for a mid-sized producer. Boulanger challenges this. He notes Citroën spent 370 million francs developing the Traction Avant and went bankrupt doing it, yet still brought the technology to market. He argues that if the technology provides competitive advantage, competitors should invest in it rather than seek its prohibition. Weifenbach shifts tactics. He suggests front-wheel drive poses safety concerns, citing increased complexity in steering and driveline components. He references no specific incidents. Lefebvre produces a document, Citroën's warranty claim data from 1934 to 1937. Total Traction Avants sold 87,000. Driveline failures requiring warranty work, 141, or 0.16%. Steering failures, 38, or 0.04%. By comparison, industry average warranty claims for conventional cars run between 0.8% and 1.2% for driveline issues. Lefebvre slides the document across the table. The room goes quiet. Regulations could level the competition without prohibiting innovation. He proposes the sliding scale. Cars under 1/500 must weigh 850 kilograms minimum. Cars from 1,500 to 2,000 cc must weigh 900 kilograms. Cars from 2,000 cc to 3,000 must weigh 1,050 kilograms. The Traction Avant 11 CV at 1,900 cc falls into the middle bracket. Boulanger objects again, noting the rule targets Citroën specifically, since no other manufacturer fields a competitive front-drive car under 2,000 cc. Boncompagni acknowledges the point, but insists the rule applies universally by displacement, not by drivetrain. Technically, any manufacturer could build a lightweight rear-drive car and face the same minimum, but none do. The rule targets Citroën in practice, if not in text. Italy votes yes, influenced by Alfa Romeo's representatives who fear Citroën expansion into Italian events. Germany votes yes, with DKW abstaining from the German delegation's decision because DKW also uses front drive. Switzerland votes yes. Belgium votes yes, citing competitive balance concerns. Britain abstains, with the racy delegate stating the rule seems arbitrary. Austria votes no, arguing technical innovation should not face regulatory penalty. The result? 5-1-1. The rule passes. Effective date, January 1st, 1939. Manufacturers have 8 months to comply. Boncompagni suggests a sliding scale. Cars under 2,000 cc must weigh at least 900 kilograms. That adds 90 kilograms to Citroën's rally cars. Boulanger objects. He calls the rule arbitrary and punitive. The CSI votes. France, Italy, Germany, Switzerland, and Belgium vote yes. Britain abstains. Austria votes no. The rule passes 5-1-1. Effective date, January 1st, 1939. April to December 1938. They redesign the Traction Avant 11 CV rally variant. They add back sound deadening 22 kilograms. They reinforce the floor pan with additional cross bracing, 18 kilograms. They fit heavier seats, 14 kilograms. They install a larger fuel tank, 65 liters instead of a 52, 11 kilograms when full. They add auxiliary lighting and a stronger front bumper, 16 kilograms. They upgrade brake components for higher thermal load, 9 kilograms. Total added weight, 90 kilograms. The car now weighs 900 kilograms empty, but the reinforcements also improve durability. The floor bracing reduces chassis flex. The bigger tank extends range. The better brakes handle alpine descents without fade. The car is heavier but more capable. Citroën enters 7 cars, all 11 CV units weighing 900 kilograms minimum. Car 18, driver René Lebesgue, starts from Tallinn. Temperature, minus 19 Celsius. Route, 3,287 kilometers. Lebesgue averaged 66 smelling Dalvin kilometer H, slower than prior years due to the added weight. Car 24, driver Jean Trevoux, starts from Athens. He averages 72 km. Both reach Monaco without penalties. The concentration hill climb at La Turbie. Trevoux records 9 minutes, 28 seconds. A Delahaye 135 mess logs 9 minutes 44. Trevoux wins the rally. Lebesgue finishes second. Car 39 takes fifth. 3 in the top 5 again. The weight rule does not stop them. Lotto headline, January 30th, 1939, Citroën Encore. The editorial notes the new weight requirement had no effect on performance. The competitor manufacturers meet privately. May 1939, a conference in Paris, location the Hotel Lutetia. Attendees from Delahaye, Hotchkiss, Talbot, Peugeot. No minutes are published, but correspondence from Delahaye's files, later donated to the Musée de l'Automobile in Mulhouse, shows the attendees agreed to jointly petition the CSI for a ban on front-wheel drive cars in rally competition effective 1940. The rationale: front-wheel drive constitutes a fundamental mechanical advantage that cannot be offset by weight penalties and undermines the principle of equal competition among conventional automobiles. The letter goes to the CSI June 1939, signed by Weifenbach, Gillet, Lago, and Peugeot director Maurice Jordan. France and Britain declare war September 3rd. Motorsport ends. The CSI suspends all international competition September 10th, 1939. The proposed front-wheel drive ban dies in committee. They finished outside the top 10 only twice, both times due to accidents, not mechanical failure. In the Monte Carlo Rally alone, from 1935 to 1939, Citroën won 3 times and placed second twice. In Liège-Rome-Liège, 2 wins in 3 attempts. In every French national rally from 1936 to 1939, Citroën finished top 3. Hotchkiss tried lighter alloys and got the AM80S down to 970 kilograms by 1939, but the beam axles limited cornering speed. Talbot built the T150 SS with independent front suspension, but kept rear-wheel drive. It weighed 100 kilograms and won nothing. Peugeot's 402 stayed conventional. Separate chassis, rear drive, 980 kilograms, modest results. Only one non-Citroën manufacturer found success. Delahaye won Monte Carlo in 1937, but that was the anomaly, not the trend. Cars under 2,000 cc had to maintain a minimum weight-to-horsepower ratio of 16.1. For a 56 horsepower traction Avant, that meant 896 kilograms, essentially the 1939 rule, now codified. Citroën entered the Monte Carlo Rally in 1949 with 3 cars. None finished top 10, the traction Avant aged, competitors adopted independent front suspension, Peugeot in 1948, Renault in 1949. The gap closed. By 1960, front-wheel drive appeared in production cars from NSU, Renault, BMC, and later Volkswagen, Fiat, and Ford. The traction Avant proved the concept worked under stress. It never sold. The rule punishes competence. Citroën never knew about the planned boycott in 1939. Competitors ran rear drive, motorsport from 1920 to 1939. The report, compiled by Chief Steward Henri Thoiry, examined win rates by manufacturer. Citroën's traction Avant held the highest win percentage of any model in the 1930s. 57% of events entered resulted in outright victory. The next highest, Bugatti's Type 57 at 31%. Delahaye's 135 sat at 18%. The report concluded, the traction Avant represented a technical leap that regulations could not accommodate without, rewriting the definition of a touring car. The racing program started only after privateers proved the car could win. But the car was so much better that domination happened by default. Theirs does not. The letter recommended Hotchkiss adopt independent front suspension. Gillette declined. Cost was prohibitive. Hotchkiss stuck with beam axles until 1950. Torsional rigidity, lower than the traction Avant's monocoque by approximately 40%, based on Citroën's internal testing in 1936, documented in a report titled Rigidité comparée, signed by André Lefebvre. Delahaye had the engine. Citroën had the chassis. In rallying, the chassis won. Drivetrain layout. That had never happened before in European motorsport, but front-wheel drive on a production touring car? 4 companies wanted it gone. The CSI considered it. Only the war killed the vote. Maurice Gillet had ties to the French Ministry of Commerce. They had leverage, but they also had no counter-argument to Boulanger's central point. The car is in production. Anyone can buy it. The technology is not secret. Banning front drive would require admitting that competition favored innovation, and the competitors chose not to innovate. That admission would not sit well publicly. The rule that did pass, the 900 kilogram minimum, was the compromise. It slowed the traction Avant by approximately 3–4% based on Citroën's testing at Montlhéry in December 1938. A report from test driver René Carrère recorded lap times before and after ballast. Before, 1 to 42.8 around the 2.5 kilometer oval. After, 147.2, but the car was still faster than the competition. Delahaye's 135 ms lapped Montlhéry in 151.6, Hotchkiss AM80s 154.0. The gap remained. The weight rule backfired and made the car better. Lebesgue continued racing into the 1950s and died in 1972. Both lived long enough to see front-wheel drive become standard. Lebesgue once said in 1958, "We won because the car worked. Others had more power. We had better engineering." He took measurements and notes. Saab's first production car, launched in 1949, used a nearly identical configuration. Transverse engine, front-wheel drive, monocoque body. DKW did the same. The first Volkswagen Golf, launched in 1974, used the same layout. So did the first front-drive Honda Civic in 1972, the first front-drive Toyota Tercel in 1978. The lineage runs straight from the traction Avant to every front-drive compact car built in the past. 50 years. Citroën proved it worked, everyone else copied it. The archives hold one final document, a handwritten note from Pierre Boulanger to André Lefebvre, dated September 15, 1939, 4 days after the CSI suspended competition. The note, preserved in the Citroën Conservatoire, reads, "The war ends racing. But it does not end what we proved. The car is right. Let them write whatever rules they want. We built the future." Boulanger signed it. Lefebvre kept it. The note sits in a folder labeled Competition 1935-1939. Next to it, a list of every rally the traction Avant won. 64 entries, 64 victories. No rule ever erased that.